Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Raps Assistant on Air, the rapeseed podcast here in the Baltics. My name is Rene Brand, and today I have the honor to welcome my PM colleague Vyginta here from Rapool Baltics and our first guest Arnas from AGROKONCERNAS. During the last weeks, we got quite a lot of unexpected positive feedback from all the different countries, from colleagues in Rapool and also from other people outside in the agriculture business. And before we will start with our podcast, we would like to use the moment to thank you for all this positive feedback. It is motivation for us to go further, to look for new interesting topics for you and your daily life with rapeseed. Today, we will speak about fungicides in rapeseed, a leftover from the past. To underline this quite provocating title, please let me add some further statements from the market. Since a few years, we have to observe that rapeseed is not really showing a further yield progress in the practice. That's a problem. The investments from the farmers are not going directly into a higher profit. And we have to observe additionally that rapeseed has to struggle more and more with the challenging conditions. Especially if we look to the establishment in the autumn time, we see it is now more and more complicated for the rapeseed to show an homogeneous field before Christmas. On top, we see an increasing political influence on our agriculture in general, but also especially for our rapeseed business. And we see that not only since we have the Green Deal in the European Union, we have already observed this increasing political influence already before. The message is clear, minus 50% in pesticides, that is a fact till 2030, that will also influence the usage of fungicides in rapeseed. On the other side, if we follow official investigations in the efficiency of fungicides in rapeseed, we see in long-term analysis from different countries that more than 50% of the fungicide applications in autumn time are not profitable. What does it mean for us and for rapeseed as one of the most intensive crops in the European crop rotation? We will discuss here today to give you some further input for that. So I hope you, ladies and gentlemen, understand there are a lot of questions, a lot of open points which we would like to discuss. So we hope for an attractive discussion here today. And yeah, let's start. Of course, such a topic requires support. We looked for a well-known, established market expert for pesticides, and we are really happy that we could convince Arnas from AGROKONCERNAS to come here today to us, to participate here on our podcast and to go in such a discussion with us. We will speak about successful growth regulation. We will speak about on the plus and minus of fungicides, about the position of fungicides at all. And of course, we want to try to get his personal strategy for a successful establishment of rapeseed in autumn time. So, Arnas, thanks again for your participation here today. Before we will start with first questions, please let me introduce you a little bit to our international audience of Raps Assistant. I have looked a little bit to the internet, what I can find about you, and I was able to collect some background information via Facebook, luckily. So I have seen that you finished your study at Agricultural Technologies and their management on the Lithuanian University of Agriculture in Kaunas in 2011. After that study, you joined then AGROKONCERNAS. AGROKONCERNAS is one of the biggest and main dealers here in Lithuania, but also in total on the Baltic market, where you were already responsible for several positions in seed business as a seed manager, and now you are working there as a pesticide manager. Me personally, I'm interested in how did you found your interest for agriculture, and I'm curious, where are the differences between the seed and pesticide business?
So, hello everyone, and thank you for inviting me here today. I hope we will be able to prolong our discussions we had just before the podcast here right now. So what happened in my life? After I was graduated, I decided to check up all the industries who are growing, in my opinion, and agriculture was one of them. So I joined Lithuanian University of Agriculture and studied there for 6 years. And in 2011, I decided to join AGROKONCERNAS. So there is a great family of expertise, people who has all kind of expertise there, and they are growing really nice specialists around here, and they are all well known. By the way, Vyginta is also my former colleague. We worked for a while, a few years ago. So for 6 years, I was responsible for all our seed business, and I developed quite a lot of changes in our company together with our team. One of these projects might be well known for Lithuanian farmers. It's Mercedes, one of your great varieties of winter oilseed rape. And also, right now it's already 4 years when I'm working on crop protection division. And here we also introduced quite nice and great products for Lithuanian farmers. And I'm quite proud about our job we are doing all together.
Okay, but again, I have to...
What is the main difference?
What is the main difference? I'm interested.
What is the main difference? I'd say, that first of all, crop protection section is more competitive because it's much easier to sell the pesticides. Why? Because you can, every single time you can use math and count how much of active you can buy in one or another pricing and circumstances, and it's much easier to know every single new product who's coming to the market. It's just coming. You're looking into the what kind of compounds are inside, and you already know how you can use it, and with some kind of basic knowledge. And here with varieties, it's much more different and harder to do, because sometimes you need very long time to check all the ways the same variety. For example, maybe this year it was great, but 2 years ago it could be really bad because we got some frost, and now for some time we won't have any kind of cold temperatures, even if in the winter, and maybe it looks much better than it is for real. So sometimes it's tricky, especially it's tricky to work with winter wheat varieties when some kind of problems appears in some period of time, for example, quality of grain or sprouting or something like that. So it's much more trickier, but together seed business is the one which is, in my opinion, it's the future. When we're linking everything together with what you told, we are reducing pesticides, we will use more technologies for precise farming, but one of the most important components all the time will be varieties.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Arnas. But now enough for introduction, and so let's go a little bit deeper in our topic today. But before we will start here, we should have a look outside about the situation in the fields. And here, Vyginta, I think you have the best overview about first emergence and use development of rapeseed. I have heard that you were traveling quite a lot in the last days between the different countries. So please share with us your latest impressions about the rapeseed in the field. And I could imagine that already the first early sown rapeseed fields reach 4 or 5 leaves.
Yes, you're right. So nice to meet you, colleagues, and I have an interesting conversation with you as agricultural professionals. This week, really, I have a chance to visit all Baltic states. So I want to say that there are no big differences in these countries, and these all 3 fields look similar. So we can find that farmers sown in 2 positions. One is optimal time. It is about 40% of fields, and another is later time. It is about 60% of the fields, and the following situation occurs. So earlier sown fields due to lack of moisture looks not homogeneous, and the plants are different. We can sow plants which have 4 or 5 leaves and another only 2. And later sown crops are more uniform. Mostly about 70% of the field is covered, and the plants is about 3-4 leaves.
Okay. Thanks, Vyginta, for a compact overview. We both together already discussed in our last podcast about the satisfying rapeseed yields also here in the Baltics in Harvest 2020, and we give already a small attractive outlook for the profitability of rapeseed also for Harvest 2021. What do you think? Do our farmers intend now to invest more in a probably higher intensity of rapeseed, or do they start already to look for some alternative strategies?
Yes, winter oilseed rape still is the most profitable crop in our countries, and it requires most proven and the greatest economic benefit strategy. So the choice of which depends on many factors. Farms in our region choose different strategies and are able to achieve many high results. So some farms have proven and profitable intensive plant care technology, and others choose sustainably one. And of course, we have really good fields, and mostly maybe there are one difference that little bit lower yield results. So I think that regarding plant regulation, I see changes in the strategies of progressive thinking farmers. We try to find alternatives to the most common usual using strategies, and another farmers choosing earlier time to regulate growth, and another products or maybe products complexes that inhibit plant growth.
Okay. Okay. Arnas, what's your opinion about that? Did you already observe a change in the growth regulation in rapeseed here in the last up to 5 years?
So I think the trends are changing all the time. The main question is when we drilled the also drip, what kind of size it already reached in short period of time, and sometimes are we able to go to the field if it's not too windy or for example it's not constantly raining like it was, for example, in 2017, autumn 2017. So on autumn 2017, for example, there was no growth regulation required. It was not enough moisture in the soil. It was too much moisture in the soil and not enough oxygen. And plants were not developing, and weeds as well. And it was quite problematic for us to even go to the field with a sprayer because it waits and the soil was too wet. For example, in the last couple of years, we got another trend that farmers went to drill very early because they've been able to harvest extremely early. This year, I think we are changing, we're coming back to all the way we are working with to a few years ago when we had, let's say, late harvest, later drilling time. So now, even now, as Vyginta mentioned, there are different kinds of fields and not of them are homogeneous. And it's a bit harder to choose the right product and right application time. So for example, we can use these fungicides like metconazole, I really like it, or Carix, one of another products. And I think we'll find the ways again. We're finding them all the time.
But one more small question. But do you think that they intend or that they accept to invest a little bit more money also in the autumn time?
Yes, of course. You see, we are very different from the region you came from. You came from Germany. And sometimes, and I heard, that you have some really nice statistics that 50% of applications are not profitable. So what I can tell that the measurement of profitability here in Baltics should be evaluated a bit differently because we can lose all the crop if we are not applying growth regulator. Stem elongation won't be avoided. It comes up. And if frost comes, we can lose whole crop. So sometimes if we can save few euro, because it's not very expensive applications of growth regulators, sometimes we can use whole crop. So I think it's one of the most important applications in the whole technology of oilseed rape. Okay. So of course insecticides are very important, fungicides during flowering time are important. But this one is crucial because we can lose whole crop.
Okay. I have found in the internet an interesting press release in Germany from the Agricultural Industry Association. They mentioned that the pesticide market in Germany dropped down in 2019 for, let me check, 7%, yes. On a level now of 1.2 billion euros. Okay. If we look a little bit more deeper in this press release, they mentioned also that, especially for the fungicide market, there is a big drop down of around 13%, now on a new level of 435 millions. Nice to know. But if we go now back to our topic here today, interesting is they mentioned there is a reduction of 25% of fungicides in rapeseed 2019. Okay, for me, I can explain that. Spring 2019 mainly influenced by drought and temperatures. Dry environment also then in the autumn time 2019. So there wasn't a bigger growth regulation necessary. So okay, but now I ask myself when I see this information. And with that lower intensity, the German rapeseed farmers were able now this year, harvest 2020, to reach an unexpected high yield of 3.7 tons. And now I ask myself, are the fungicides in autumn time overestimated? And do we need them, or do you have some explanations for me for that? Because on one side they didn't use them, and on the other side they have high yield.
Okay, so first of all, why we're using fungicides at all? So fungicides and all kind of pesticides are they are, let's say, saving the yield. So they are protecting the yield. So there must be potential first to protect something. So if you have very homogeneous early planted crops, for example, what happened this year. So on 2019 autumn, we've been able to drill for a long period of time. Most of the crops were drilled early, for example, here in Baltics. So plants developed huge leaves, huge amount of mass, and we stopped them. We had to regulate them in autumn for twice. Some farms did it already 3 times. So it's there. And these kind of products, they are still expanding the root, and it is more, let's say, plants are more resistant for droughts and all kind of other stuff. So in my opinion, what happened in your scenario, it was very important that we had already very nice start of the season. Afterwards, we got rain in the flowering, what was very important for it. And even in our trial center, AGROKONCERNAS developed our own trial center where we're trying varieties and products. So we noticed that varieties without fungicide application are performing well, but fungicides still are saving quite a lot of yield potential we are losing if we're not applying. So I would say that it's not overestimated when we're talking about growth regulators in autumn. I'd say not always people are choosing right products there. So for example, if we are not applying growth regulator and we have very, very mild winter, we won't see any kind of damage there, or the damage will be low, considerably low, and the farmers will be satisfied. But sometimes, like it happened in Kaunas trial station on 2016-17 season, the replication which was not applied with the growth regulators totally collapsed and died, and only some semi-dwarfs survived, while other conventional varieties died. And all other applications who've been treated with fungicide was fine, was great. So in my opinion, it's if the question is about losing the crop here in Baltics, where we have winter time and cold winter time usually, I think it's necessary to apply them, and it's not a question of 10 or 15 euro you are willing to invest into the crop. And by the way, another moment I figured out after your question, that in Germany usually fungicide prices are higher. So just imagine how much you can calculate by yourself there, but I think there must be quite a big difference in between of these kind of applications. So if you're doing 2 applications in autumn time or extra free fungicide application in springtime, it makes quite a big amount of money.
What is the average price for an autumn application?
So for autumn application, for example, some people are using cheapest product in the market. It's like straight tebuconazole. It might be Aureus or Follicor. 1 liter costs around 11-12 euro. So registered dose rate is 0.5, and this 0.5 is like it's treating only FOMA. So it's €6 and it's not very efficient against the growth.
Okay.
Yeah, but another one, which is, in my opinion, most competitive here is metconazole. 90 grams of metconazole costs around 23-4 something euro, and the dose rate 0.5 brings us to €11 investment or €12 investment.
Okay.
To already have a decent growth regulation if we are doing it in 3-4 leaf stage. If we are applying later, we need to increase the dose rate, so we are going for 0.7, 60 grams of metconazole. It costs around €15 then 16. If we need to force it seriously, we are going to stronger products, which we'll maybe discuss later.
Yeah. Okay, but I will check that.
Please check, because it's very important when we're talking about statistics and so on. Because numbers are numbers, but sometimes life is different.
You're right.
And during our last winter seminar, we presented official figures from long-term analysis of the Bavarian State Institute of Agriculture. We investigate fungicide effect on rapeseed yield since 2001. On average, we get the following figures that just 45% of all autumn applications were profitable. In average, if we keep the cost in mind, we get only about €2 per hectare. And just in special years, farmers can make profit with such a fungicide application. We underline here more the insurance effect. Can you agree with that? What are your experiences under Baltic conditions? And additionally, I would like to ask you, for audience, what is necessary for a successful grow regulation?
So, in my opinion, the first and most important thing to successfully stop the growth of false drip, we should go earlier. So it means that if we can make first application of growth regulator in 3 or 4 leaf stage, it's already cheaper. Just immediately it's cheaper. You can go, as I mentioned before, with metconazole. But if you are late, for example, you are coming to the field and it's already 6 or 8 leaves stage, and you see that it's getting late. We need to do something drastically, and so we should go for a product like Carex. We did some research in our trial station, not only there, in Lithuanian Institute of Agriculture. We found out that when we're applying early, 3-4 leaf stage, it's almost no kind of difference in efficacy, concerning efficacy, compared to products like Juventus and compared to product like Carex. And the price of them is different, yeah. So that's the first thing, how we should save money. It's not about, going all the time with the top-ranked products in the market who costs, 30% more, 25% more. We can just, rearrange everything and go with a little bit cheaper ones. But I understand that sometimes it rains, sometimes it's really windy, and we can't go out with our sprayers. So I know that, but from our strategical perspective, strategy of the farm, we have always think how to handle everything earlier and try to plan in this way.
And you mentioned the right application date. I can agree from my daily contact with my colleagues and with farmers. The question regarding right application date is the most used.
Yes.
We know from scientific, respectively industrial publications that 4-6 leaf stage has the best efficiency.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we see that often farmers apply too late. But based on experiences of our breeders, we know that late applications mean more robust plants and require high dosage.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely. As I mentioned later, higher doses, more expensive solutions. If we're applying crop protection products or fungicides or growth regulators earlier, we will always have better efficacy. The same is with fungicide in wheat. Usually when we're applying on, let's say, according to plan, and we're not looking into the sky, for example, if it will rain, if it won't rain, we can arrange diseases with small amounts of pesticides. And I think it will be the ways how we are going to reduce all these inputs till 2030. So we'll have to make smaller doses maybe and do it more repetitively. We'll see. I don't know. It's quite a long time till that, but we'll figure it out.
One small question.
Yes.
You say, okay, earlier more efficiency. I remember we have in Germany this. I don't know if it's a good general recommendation, but we say 0.1 liter per leaf.
Mm-hmm.
Of what?
Of an acyl in general. So it's not for special products, but they say with the acyls 0.1 liter and then per leaf, and you are on a good way. Interesting for the Baltics. Would you agree with that? Or
I disagree hardly. I understand the idea, but we should know about what kind of product we are talking about.
Let's say
because the concentration might be very, very different. Like you have 2 metconozoles in the Europe. One is Caramba, which 1 liter contains 60 grams of metconazole, and we have more concentrated one, Juventus, which has 90 grams. So 50% of the dose of active is difference. Okay. So these kind of ideas are really great when the common practice is used in some kind of region. But we should very carefully speak about it on international level, and where all the manufacturers involved. Let's say Tilmor is another great product, and its registration rate, if I remember right, I might be wrong, but it's 0.8 something. So, and it's only 1 dose rate. But you will now, if you'll use Tilmor on 8 leaves, it will do nothing. It contains not enough of tebuconazole to stop it. You should use it in 3-4 leaf stage, as you mentioned, and then you will get much better efficacy than you might have on 8 leaf stage. So I believe that it's a tricky stuff, and we shouldn't speak like this because we could mislead some people. That's, I would say, check the product. You know it. You know the products. And in my opinion, 45 grams of metconazole is doing quite well on 3-4 leaf stage. If we're going to 4-6 leaf stage, we can go with 63 grams of active, or 0.7, let's say. And very the same story with Carex. If we are going for first application, and it's already 8 leaves, and they are robust plants, very massive, we should go with 1 liter and not less. But if we are on 3, 4, 5 leaf stage, we can go with 0.7, 0.9. It depends on density of the crop as well. So every single time, agronomist who is on the field is the master key for right decision.
Thanks, Arnas. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you can agree now with me. It's good to have an expert for such a discussion. So thanks a lot, Arnas, already for your input. Okay, then let's go a little bit further. Okay. Now we discussed quite a lot about products and ingredients and dosage. If I'm now a farmer and ask you, what is your strategy then now for autumn 2020 regarding growth regulation? And please keep in mind especially that not only Rapool has a broad portfolio of moderate growing hybrids and vigorous growing hybrids, like it was Mercedes in the past, now Phantom, Temptation and Atora, Dominator, so yes. Many hybrids. And also from the competition. So, what is then your strategy if I would ask you today as a farmer for my field?
So first of all, I'd like to ask the owner of the field what kind of density of plants he has right now there. So sometimes it goes from 30 to even 60 or 70 if there are OPs, open pollinated varieties on the field. Sometimes it's even 80 or 90 because also drape is coming back again and again to the same fields. And sometimes when people are plowing, some old volunteers comes up, and sometimes you can find that you drilled 45 or 50 seeds per square meter, but you can see 70, 80 plants. And I had this kind of stuff in my practice. So it's the first thing. Second thing is drilling time, when the crop was drilled and how fast it develops. For example, in previous couple of years, we saw many fields who've been drilled in, let's say, first week of August, and they are extremely vigorous and very strong plants, and there we immediately needed 2 applications in most of the cases, not all, but most of the cases. So for first application, I'd strongly recommend to think and to check the product like Juventus, as I mentioned, and if it's drilled early, we should immediately go for 0.7 dose rate, quite a strong one, good one, and you'll be able to see that it works quite well. After, a couple of weeks, I believe in the beginning of September, it was still growing, and we needed to apply some Carex. So if it's less density there, 0.7 is fine. If it's very dense, we should consider 1 liter, 1.2 liter, and it works quite well. If we're talking about the fields who were drilled in the middle of the August, let's say it's optimal time, first application, as I mentioned, 0.7, and in most of Juventus, and in most of the cases we won't need second application of growth regulator. The only, let's say, I forgot that name, for that word in English. It's not my native tongue speech, but there are some, let's say, questions. If you applied 0.7 of Juventus and it's still growing, in most of the cases it shouldn't, but if it's still growing 0.7 Carex, then should do the stuff. But most important thing is density of the crop. If it's too dense, it will extend. You can do everything, it will extend. I remember when I visited some of the trial fields in Agrovisia a few years ago, and I went to the start of the field, and you could see that there's 100 plants in square meter drilled, and there was 2 growth regulators already applied. There was, let's say, 8 leaf stage of the plants, but they were so narrow and so tall already with along the stem. So you won't be able to do nothing if it's too dense. So the first growth regulator is precise drilling rate and drilling time. I think it's the cheapest ones. And later all the stuff is coming. And those people who drilled also drape after 24th of August, let's say, I think in most of the cases, well, they will avoid to, they won't need to apply any kind of growth regulator. But I have to remind that active ingredient like metconazole, it expands the root, and still crop survives all the stresses in much better way during the season. Yeah. So I think that even if you are not planning to apply, 0.4 of Juventus might help just a little bit if crop is growing.
That's an interesting point. We in Rapool we make several technology trials to check out our varieties for the different purposes and how we can, let's say, characterize them in the best way. In the north of Germany, in our head office at NPZ, so that is located to the Baltic Sea, we do such trials also for different sowing dates and then nitrogen intensities and so on. Interesting was this year, we call it ultra late sowing trial, was sown out by somehow 17, 18 of September. It was immediately in this mentioned dry environment. So our agronomists decided, okay, this ultra late sowing trial is not necessary to apply here fungicides.
Yes.
Later on, we got this quite untypical English winter. So we had a lot of moisture and precipitation, higher temperatures in January and February. And then we observed a very interesting point. We got FOMA.
Yes.
We got FOMA in this trial, and we could really see then the FOMA resistance in the different varieties. So, and it was for me personally a first time to see this typical falling down of the plant. So the stem was really killed, it was rotten, and then with this lower nitrogen. That's next interesting point. We go in 2 replications with just 120 kilograms. So not really enough for the rapeseed plants in spring somehow to compensate and to work against the FOMA. So you could really easily see that. The differences, and then with the 170 kilogram variant, the plants were more able to compensate here this lack of the fungicide in autumn time. They were a little bit more robust. FOMA was there, but not able to bring them down.
Intensity, it was there, but it was not so hard.
Yeah, exactly.
So, by the way, you touched a really nice topic, because for 3rd year already we're doing some kind of trials, field trials.
Okay.
And we are working against FOMA. And what we've noticed, that all these products I've mentioned, Folicur or Orius, Metcon, Juventus, also Carix, and Tilmor, they're all working against FOMA. The thing is that we're applying them on 3-4 leaf stage, or to 6 or to 8 leaves, but in this period of time. The FOMA is able to affect plant even if it's -1. So it's still in the air, it comes on the leaves, and that's why in extremely late winter we could see really severe damages there. So the thing is, what we've developed, that even if we don't need anymore to stop the growth, on the beginning usually of October, we're going out, or maybe even later, when we see first spots of FOMA, we're going out and apply ½ liter of Orius or 120 grams of tebuconazole. It's very low dose rate, and it doesn't affect the growth of the plant, but it keeps leaves healthy. So we noticed that this kind of late applications here in our trials are giving positive reactions to the plant. So even from this, we could expect this year we've witnessed plus 4% of yield, which is not too much, but it definitely covers the expenses. And also, if we'll have a winter like previous one, we'll have more of the infestations in extremely sensitive varieties like Mercedes, for example, or others.
I have one question. What is the latest time for late application?
Still you can. Well, if it's not freezing, you can go out, but you should think about it only if you can see some spots on the leaves already. If it's not you shouldn't just waste time or money. So spots on the leaves, and just check some fields around, because FOMA goes for 600 meters easily by the air, so just be careful there.
Okay.
So it's not very regular practice in Lithuania to do so, but we tried. It gives results. We starting to think about it and how to bring it to the fields.
Okay. One more question regarding this comparison of fungicides and growth regulator. We know that with this product Carex, it is a little bit difficult. Is it now a fungicide? Is it a growth regulation? Today I would like here to bring a little bit this international input to this conversation. Official long-term analysis from our friends in Czech Republic, they present a yield plus of 13.5% over up to 20 years. If we compare intensive production with several fungicide applications versus zero fungicide variant. For me, interesting is they are working without Carex. If we go then to the practice in Czech Republic, I asked my colleagues and they gave me the latest figure. Carex has a market share of 45%, so it's totally opposite. Now, question to you, is Carex now then a suitable product for such a general growth regulation strategy, or is it a specialist for as you mentioned, later applications, massive production?
So Carex in Lithuania is also a very popular product. It also has quite a big market share here. The thing is, why it's so popular, it really works. It works very well. And it works as a fungicide as well. Carex contains two active ingredients. One of them is metconazole, I mentioned already a bunch of the times before. And another one is mepiquat chloride. So mepiquat chloride is suitable for oilseed rape, and it's different from chlormequat chloride, which we are using in cereals or cicotsel. But here the part of metconazole is very small. So basically, if you are not going with 1 liter, you shouldn't expect very high efficacy against FOMA. But also from our trials, what we've noticed that Carex and Juventus, they both are controlling FOMA quite well in these dose rates, who are, let's say, quite common for us. Czech Republic is 1,000 kilometers to the south. I lived there for a while. I studied there, and I checked there some crops as well as oilseed rape. So the thing is that they have much higher average temperature per year, and they need much more control of growth regulators. And if you will ask me, I don't know now what kind of practice do they have in Czech Republic, but I would guess that they are not going to the lower dose rates than 1 liter, and averagely they're going with 1.4, 1.5 something, and they're applying much higher dose rates than we are doing here. Right now, even it's the middle of September, and I can feel how every day is getting shorter and shorter, and it changes rapidly. And 1,000 kilometers to the south, day length, I would say it's still different, but it's more intensive. Sun is still up there, and sun here is going on some kind of angle, lower angle, and plants are not able to get all this light they need, and they're growing much slower. So I really like Carex. I really like and appreciate this product. We are selling it. It's in our palette, but I can see that in Lithuania, from my perspective, it might be niche, and most, let's say, I don't see the reason why we should use it in such a big amounts because it's more expensive and it does the same job if we're applying early. If we're applying late, it's like this. So I understand these people and I know what they're doing, and I know that they are doing right. They're on the right way.
Okay. We started at the beginning of our conversation with the point that we don't see this expected yield progress in the practice because of several reasons like climatic change and further factors. At the same time, we also can already see that this new class of hybrids is also then here coming now step by step to the market. We see this new generation of hybrids which are really robust, healthy. We have these new resistances against turnip yellow virus, for example. We have a new FOMA resistances like LMS. And the varieties are becoming now more and more flexible in their crop management. Temptation is, for example, a good example for that. It was the outstanding varieties in the last 2 years in several countries, Poland and also Czech Republic, Slovakia. I have found one interesting result, Arnas. Temptation was tested in a trial of SPZO, that is the Rapeseed Association of Farmers in Czech Republic. They test several varieties together with Temptation for zero fungicide technology. And Temptation was the only one which reached a higher yield, more than 5 tons per hectare without fungicide. It was the only variety in that trial. So it convinced a lot. That was really a big message for us and for our experiences. So question now coming up in me and question to you. Do these new hybrids, do they need fungicides at all now, or is it possible, that they can go without?
Temptation is a great hybrid. We kept an eye on it for a while as well as a distributor, and if I remember right, it has turnip yellow virus resistance. So just imagine that in South, again in Czech Republic, they have much more problem with this kind of challenges. And every single time this variety is not suppressed so heavily by this disease, it jumps out from all the competition. So it's the first thing why these kind of products are really, really great. They are more safer to grow, and they give sometimes some surprises. To be honest, this year we've experienced quite nice yields by ourselves of falsehood rape. And in our research center, we found out again that a couple of varieties stood out as well, and they reached 5 tons or better yield without any fungicide application. But with fungicide application, they reached 6 and plus. So what I would like to say that it's not like we should not to think, but I think there is no reason yet to go out from all the fungicide technologies already, but we should think for synergies. For example, if I know that it's raining and it's flowering, why not apply anything against Sclerotinia? If in autumn time we drilled early and I see that plants are growing too fast, why not to use fungicide? We still can. After 2030s, maybe we will have a different kind of technologies. But I'd say that genetics are really advancing, but crop protection business doing it on the same way. So biopesticides will appear. Many changes awaits us, and I would suggest to look for synergies, to keep that in mind that variety and crop protection product like fungicide is only a tool to reach better results in our business. So we need to grow, we are growing together with. We're doing it by ourselves. We have some land here in Lithuania and we are doing agriculture. So all the time we are thinking how to boost the plant, how to boost the variety, and how to help it to overcome challenges which are presented by the nature. So let's look for synergies, I would say like this.
Okay, guys, we already deep in discussions about grow regulations in rapeseed and mainly for optimal time. But unfortunately, based on the late harvest time in 2020, we have a different situation, and we have now high share of late sowing rapeseed. Arnas, what your recommendations for such farmers?
Who sowed late? Yeah?
Yes, who sowed late.
So I believe I really enjoyed watching your podcast. Before, when you invited me, I wished to look through what kind of production you made there, and it was really nice podcast about late drilled plants, and I can't add more, to be honest. You mentioned all the most important things there, so we can think about more nitrogen, about denser crop, about also you should choose variety, as you mentioned. MSL type of hybrids must be drilled denser than Segura hybrids. Also, you can add up some kind of extra fertilization through leaves, where amino acids and phosphorus, some potassium might be involved. Check all the time, check for the pests, because every single time pests are involved into the crop, it slows down and damages the plant, and it slows down it a little bit because it has to compensate. What else? I don't really know, but just you guys just check their previous podcast. It's really good, and everything is mentioned there, I suppose.
Thanks, Arnas. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, time is running. We already discussed quite a lot of questions about fungicides and the position of fungicides in a successful crop management. I would like to summarize our discussion here today. Vyginta mentioned we have quite a broad picture outside in the field with different developed plants. So we have some inhomogeneous situation outside. We have heard from Arnas that the most important point is now to select a customized strategy for each field, and not to go in with such a general strategy like we did it in the past. We want to underline again that rapeseed has still a very high profit potential. So we would like to underline here as well that you can go ahead with a little higher intensity, because based on that we have heard from Arnas, we are able then also to create a better base for harvest 2021. Fungicide applications, that is also the other side of the medal. They show a different picture regarding yield effect. We have heard that there are different situations between different countries. We have to take in mind the situation, the regional situation. And how important is the insurance effect of fungicide? That has to be answered by each farmer themselves. So finally, at the end, it is a decision by you. A successful growth regulation, we have heard, requires a customized strategy depending on local conditions and yeah, Arnas, you mentioned it. It depends also on the used variety. We have heard a lot about Juventus and Carix as suitable products for the growth regulation and fungicide strategy in autumn. Yeah, okay, it was quite a lot of advertisement for BASF, so I think there are also further possibilities available. Yeah, I think here also on Folicur as probably a little bit more cheaper product, but also I know good efficiency from Tilmore. We spoke a little bit about Toprex before our podcast, but
it doesn't have registration.
Exactly, here's a little bit different situation. It is also a used product in Germany, I know. Yeah, and from our side, we have to underline, okay, the yield and breeding progress is running. We see that with the new hybrids, like mentioned, we discussed Temptation, Dominator, but also there is dynamic in the market with these new resistances, turnip yellow virus, and they deliver a broad package of resistances. So we mentioned turnip yellow virus. They have FOMA resistance. They have some of them have this pod shattering resistance. So they give a lot of more flexibility to the crop management, but they require also here some adaptation in the fungicide strategy, which we also discussed here today. And yeah, we developed rapeseed based on this later sowing dates and some problems with lack of moisture. Yeah, they need a special adapted fungicide strategy, maybe a little bit higher focus on fungicides and not on growth regulation products. And here again, we have to underline, even if it is looking that the plants maybe can manage it without, please keep my example in mind from the north of Germany. We decided, okay, small plants late in the year we can go without, and then later on, based on this English winter, we had then FOMA in early springtime. So take that in your consideration for your fungicide strategy 2020. Yeah, I think we can close here the podcast, our third podcast here for today. Finally, I would like to say thank you to you, Arnas, for your participation, for your input, and for sharing your experiences with us and our audience. Thank you also to you, Vyginta, that you support us with an overview about the situation outside in the field. It was a pleasure to speak with you here today, and about plus and minus of fungicides and the right strategy for 2021. We hope that you benefit a little bit from our discussion here, and maybe we delivered some information so that you can make some small adjustments to your fungicide strategy for the next weeks. We wish you all the best for a successful establishment till Christmas. Wish you all the best for your rapeseed and for a good base then for harvest 2021. And yeah, and if you have any further questions, of course you can go to some experts like Arnas and AGROKONCERNAS. You can also contact us and our salespeople for further advices because you know already we know the rapeseed. Any further comments from your side?
I think that we told everything what was very interesting for farmers, and thank you guys for your opinion.
So I know only one, that when you're talking about things we are passionate about, and you are about genetics, we are about genetics and everything else. we can speak over and over, and it was a really great hour for me. So thank you for the invitation, and the rapeseed.
Thank you very much, Arnas. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. We're looking forward to see you next time. Your Raps Assistant.